This was the final game before hitting the 1800 milestone in chess. I thought it was going to be a hard-fought battle to win against these kinds of players, but really, it wasn't how I imagined at all. I'm going to go over my thought process that got me to this way of playing and also share how you can do it too. Let's start off with the opening. I think many creators are overemphasizing the importance of them, but all you need to do is to have a way to play and know the general ideas against the major one. I really like the Sicilian against e4, but feel free to choose others based on your playing style. We got an open Sicilian early on, with knight f6 attacking the e4 pawn and knight c3 defending. g6 to prepare the fianchetto, followed by bishop d3, adding yet another defender to the pawn. h3 by my opponent is a multi-purpose move, covering the g4 square from my knight and bishop, but f3 is usually the more common move as it protects the pawn and leaves options to attack my king's side. A couple more developing moves later and we reach this position where I play d5 to open up the center. My king is castled and his is in the center, so opening things up is very useful to keep in mind. After castles, I take the knight to not allow having a weak c6 pawn followed by taking on e4. Now instead of taking back with the bishop, White exchanged his dark squared bishop for my knight, giving me a positional edge, as not only do I have the bishop here, but the board is completely opened up. After knight takes back, I can freely grab a pawn with a tempo, forcing his rook to move, to which I grab another pawn. The game is not over though, with my opponent playing queen f3, stopping me from developing my final piece. Queen c7 defending the b7 pawn to enable me to bring out my bishop. I didn't expect the pawn to be pushed in front of his king at all, since white isn't even close to attacking my king. In fact, I could have just pushed h5, stopping that pawn and securing the g4 square for my bishop, but I chose not to do it as I had a sneaky plan you will see later in the game. Bishop goes to f5. Without knowing, I actually fell into a nasty tactic here with rook takes b7. If I take, there is knight f6 check, winning my queen. Luckily, my opponent didn't see it and the game continued with h5. Now here's the plan I was going for. I move my king up to g7, and if he takes, I will open up the h-file to allow my rook and queen to target the king. Interestingly enough, my opponent pushed yet another pawn in front of the king, helping me even further as I can reroute my bishop to a better diagonal. Queen h3 getting off the diagonal and setting up future attacks on h7 with the knight, but I already saw it coming. f5 by me to aggressively break white's structure here. If the knight moves, I could be able to take on g4 with tempo. We have takes and knight moves to g5. I play rook h8 and white is in big trouble. Either they trade off queens into a winning endgame for me, with the potential to even set up some mating ideas with my bishop, or they go to g2 allowing rook h4, which is winning for me anyway. They chose queen g3 and after their exchange, there is a winning sequence of moves. If you want, you can pause and solve it. Bishop c5 check, king g2, bishop c6 check, forcing a piece to block, after which we take on g4, attacking the pinned piece with a completely dominant position. After rook h1, my opponent resigned, since there is checkmate in 2. And with that, I reached the awesome rating of 1800. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. A sub would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, that's it for the video.